Is always connected.
All right. Good night, New Jersey. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, somewhere else in the world. Doug Worthen, Chief Instructor NJ Shields. We have Chief Instructor Robert Thompson with us tonight. Actually going to be sitting in for what, the second time? First time. So glad you can, join us.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so we want to start off by saying the NYPD officer who was killed, Officer Familia, we really deeply sorry for her family. We give our condolences out, to her and her family and to the NYPD, and hope that their recovery process, their mental recovery process, is fast and speedy. And to her partner, who witnessed this tragic assassination, so hope she has a speedy recovery, or he, whoever her partner was, have a speedy recovery. Okay, and that's from NJ Shields to the NYPD for Officer Familia. Okay, so we want to move on, and we want to talk about the second thing that we want to bring up was that there was a St. Louis police officer who was shot by other police officers. So we're going to elaborate on that. We're going to talk about that. I know that Instructor Thompson has a lot to say about that. I also have a lot to say about that. And whoever can type in, write in, and let us know how you feel about the situation. So let me just catch you up to date if you haven't heard. So what happened was that there was a St. Louis police officer who was shot. He was off duty, okay, and he was shot by other fellow officers from what was reported to me. So basically the story was that these police officers, the on-duty police officers, were actually in a motor vehicle chase, okay? The vehicle that was being chased, the perpetrator, eventually crashed in the neighborhood and actually crashed either at the police officer's house or somebody's neighbor's house, whatever, so on. But the St. Louis police officer off duty was home. He heard the commotion. He came out with his firearm in his hand. He didn't have any uniform on, okay? And that there were two officers who were on scene who didn't identify, knew who he was, but it was another fellow officer, from what we was told, pulled up, saw him, shot him. Okay, so let's just say that I hope he has a speedy recovery. He is okay. He's not severely injured. Okay, so let's elaborate on what happened and what we perceive what happened, because we don't really know the whole true story. But let's just go by what was given to us, and let's elaborate on that. What is your feelings on that?
Well, the officer who shot him didn't get charged with nothing, right?
Well, we're not sure.
Okay.
We're not sure.
Well, he shouldn't. If you don't identify yourself, I don't know who you are. I pull up to a scene and I see a man with a gun, and my other officers out there. I think my fellow officers is in danger. Right? Would you agree with that?
Well, you know what? There's so much that takes place here. And there can be a lot of stuff missing out of this story.
Absolutely. We don't know the whole story.
Right, we don't know the whole story. So, I mean, if I pulled up and I saw someone with a gun, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to respond to that situation. We're trained to respond in so many different ways.
Absolutely.
We don't know if the officer who pulled up told him,
put
the gun down, whatever, so identify yourself. We don't even know if that happened or not, and if not, and then maybe there could have been something to avoid that shooting.
Absolutely, another police officer. I mean, on that situation, you don't know. You don't know what the guy was thinking when he came in there.
Exactly.
I mean, anybody can comment out there to tell us, because we really don't know what happened. Did we get a lot of information on
that? No, we didn't get a lot of information on it, and I'm still actually searching for it. But also, we can also go into the fact is that off-duty police officer responding to a situation, and there's other officers with a gun in his hand, should have had a shield in his hand.
Absolutely.
His badge, either his shield around his neck or something like that, identify himself. And usually when the police officer's off duty, something like that happens at home, usually they will let the officers who are on duty take care of the situation.
Absolutely.
You know,
and you just stand in the background.
And you just stand in the background, exactly, because like you said earlier when we was talking about it, you made a statement. You said, depending on how big the police department is, sometimes officers may not know other officers.
Absolutely.
You know. Yeah. So let's take a comment.
Yeah, Catherine Elizabeth says, "What a tragedy! You all have such a hard job. I pray for all of yous involved."
And thank you, Captain. We appreciate it very, very, very much, and we appreciate you. Thank you for watching this live and responding. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I mean, and we can go on and we can elaborate about the St. Louis officer, you know, that was shot. So there's so much to the story. So, but what we're gonna do is actually we're gonna investigate, find out more what happened, and we'll bring it back. And we bring it back. Hopefully tomorrow, either next week when we log in or something like that. Cool. How does that sound?
Oh, we got to get to the bottom of it.
Exactly. We definitely got to get to the bottom of it.
Because we don't want to have any information out there that's wrong, saying anything about the officer who shot the individual may act too fast. I mean, he saw a gun.
Right, exactly. And that was the same situation like in Long Island when I forgot what department it was, whether I think it was Suffolk County PD. They did a raid and there was a street crimes unit, a plainclothes unit was in the house, and one of them came out. He actually had his vest on and he had a shield around his neck, but he was bringing out a handgun that he had found in the house during a search warrant. And a police officer from another agency, I don't want to say that agency, but a police officer from another agency pulled up just to back Suffolk County up, and that officer ended up being shot and killed by him. While there was other officers standing out there and actually standing right there when this officer was coming out. So it's like, how did we get that wrong, or how did you get that wrong? You understand what I'm saying? Where you see an officer comes out and he has his vest on, he has his tactical vest on, he has a shield around his neck, he has his weapon in his holster, and it's like, how do you mistake that? You know, it's like, why would you be so quick to pull the weapon and fire without even giving a command? Stop, who are you? Identify yourself, drop the weapon. You know, right. We can say a bunch of things, what we should have done and what we could have done. But sometimes when the shit hits the fan, sometimes there's officers, and I hate to say it, you know, they fuck up, and sometimes we have to pay for our fuck ups. You understand what I'm saying? But however, you know, people try to pay us to be perfect human beings, and you know, and we're not. We're not perfect at all. But however, we need, you know, officers around the world, we all need to make better decisions or try to make better decisions to keep from being jammed up, because the public depends on us, whether you're a police officer, correction officer, or public safety officer, security officer. Don't you agree with that?
Absolutely.
You know?
Brett Marshall says, "Hey guys."
Hey Brett, what's going on, brother? Glad you could log in. Brett is one of our guys, and he's watching us. Wish you can be here tonight, and hope to see you soon in the next training. Okay, Brett? Good. So now we want to move on to the next one. We want to talk about, there was an active shooter in bronx-lebanon hospital in New York City in the Bronx. Okay. So one of the things that I want to touch on now, I want to say first is that they actually had a workshop and training for an active shooter just before this happened. What do you say about that?
I mean, you don't know, if I can train you all day long, is your reaction on how you're going to react. I mean, are you going to take action? Are you going to remember what they told you to do? I mean, you never know. I mean, this individual, he worked for the hospital, didn't he?
Yes, the individual was actually a doctor. From what I'm hearing, once again, you know, our information is usually, you know, second, third party, yeah. Right? You know, so from what I'm hearing, that he was a doctor, and you know, it was some shady within his background anyway. You know, that he was placed on because of his past or something like that. I'm not sure. I'll make sure that I will update on this one when I get the full story and read about it and get the full story. So we're just touching on it. But yeah, you're right. Reaction is like, sometimes you can train somebody to do A, B, and C, and then when it happens, they may forget B. Yeah. You know, they may forget B and C and do A, and then when it's over with, they say, you know, maybe I should have thought about that.
If somebody's shooting at you, man, it's all over. I've been in a couple of shootouts, and you don't know what you're thinking. I mean, you got to react and save your life. And a lot of people panic and they run away and they don't do nothing. They might sit in the corner. They might panic. You never know.
Right.
And
Exactly.
and they might have saw the individual, and they might not have saw him as a threat because they know him.
Exactly.
You know, and at the last minute, you know, you never know.
Exactly. You never know exactly, and what kind of weapon that they're concealing or something
Absolutely.
like that. You know, and I want to touch on the second part about hospitals and schools and stuff like that. Is that, you know, New York City they really need to change some of their policies regarding security. Okay, a lot of these places, security need to be armed. Okay, in these
Absolutely.
hospitals, they need to be armed. Arm them. Okay, arm them. You know, listen.
Train them and arm them. Train them real well. Because I mean, you know, you just don't want to train them. I mean, you just don't want to put them in there and give them a little bit of training. You got to train them.
Right, you got to train them. You got to arm them. You know, I don't understand the sense of, you know, you have security set up at certain points in the hospital,
But they're not armed.
right, and you don't even have one or two armed people. You understand what I'm saying?
That's like
you know,
banks. The bank's the same way. I mean, you know, why would you put an unarmed guy in there and somebody come in there and rob the bank? You might as well don't have none.
Right. It's like that commercial. Oh, I'm not a security guard. I'm a security monitor. I'll just let you know when the bank is being robbed. The bank is being robbed. You know, it's crazy. You know, it's like I don't understand. You know, the fear of firearms and people's Second Amendment right. It's like, if I want protection, I will have adequate protection.
Absolutely.
You know, and I tell people all the time, you know, when I was on the job and when you was on the job, you know, and before we went to private sector, it's like, one, you know, when we was on the job, we are there for people's general protection.
Absolutely.
So that means that when we're called, you know, we'll come. Unless we're on patrol and we see it and, you know, we respond to it. But now we're here for people's, you know, private protection, not individual protection, but private protection. So it's like, and we carry firearms for a living. So it's like, and some of the calls that we get for, you know, for the area that we cover, we respond very quick and very fast. And our city police always tells us, thank God that we have y'all guys, and y'all guys have experience, and y'all guys are trained, and you know where y'all at. That's one least place where we need to go, and we know that we need to go there is to back y'all guys up. So thank you to Newark Police Department for giving us that clout. Newark Police Department, hands up, thumbs up to y'all guys for thinking, you know, the way that y'all think about us here. Okay, so so once again, you know, they need to be armed. And they need to catch up with the times.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody trying to keep guns out of people's hands. A lot of, yes.
Susan Dean, good evening to all. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Susan. Appreciate you. Keep viewing in on us, and you be safe out there just as well. Whatever you do, if it's not what we do, just be safe out there. Whatever you do.
One more.
Okay.
Raheem Soto says, we need all law enforcement agencies to come together and respect the job versus having this whose gun is bigger than whose attitude. In this day and age, we should back each other up.
Can I respond to that? You are absolutely right. Agencies don't cooperate with each other. The crime rate in most of these cities is because the sheriff department, the DEA, the FBI, they all separate. If they could become one, you can clean up this crime, number one. Number two, I don't go against you. I'm going to help you. If I see that the local department need help, that's when the sheriff department come in. That's when the FBI comes in. We all supposed to help each other and make sure that we go home safe.
Right. And I want to say to Raheem, peace, brother. I was going to give you a shout out later on when I was going to end the live, you know, but you know, Officer Soto is a good friend of mine. We actually did some work together in New York City. So I'm glad you're viewing in, Brother Soto, Officer Soto. Let me just tell you, brother, I think about you all the time. You be safe out there, and whatever you need from our end over here in New Jersey, you just call me and let me know, and I'll be there for you, my brother. So I'm glad you're viewing in. Peace out, and I'll still give you that shout out at the end of this. Okay? So we want to move on. We want to take one more comment before we move on to the next one and take more comments. So do we have any in?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right. So now let's go on to, we've been getting a lot of, you know, complaints about the use of force from law enforcement, from civilians. And needless to say is that, we teach the use of force all the time, and we have debates. I wouldn't say arguments, but we have debates with people about the use of force,
Well, self-defense. There's the self-defense law in New Jersey.
Right. People will say there's no self-defense law. So basically, you can walk down the street and you can let someone bash your brains in, and then if you protect yourself, and then you're both going to jail. That's nuts. Okay. All right. So let me just say this. Let me just break it down. Okay. And this probably might be one of our longest segments before we move on to anything else. Okay. So some states will have what they call the castle doctrine. Okay. And the castle doctrine breaks down a long list of do's and don'ts. Okay. In our states, we don't have the castle doctrine protecting us, but we do have the use of force. Okay, the castle doctrine in the other states, I believe, it's been a long time since I've been an officer in South Carolina, so some things that I did forget. However, I really can't break it down, but I just remember the castle doctrine, also the use of force combined together.
Absolutely.
Okay, and the castle doctrine has a lot to do with firearms just as well. Okay, so let's talk about the use of force in New Jersey. Okay. Most states, the majority of states, there is no law written self-defense law. It just doesn't sound right. So the state of New Jersey says, okay, if you want to defend yourself, you have to follow the use of force. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you a little highlight on the use of force, and especially when it comes to law enforcement as well. Okay, so constructive authority, physical contact, physical force, mechanical force, deadly force, reasonable belief, intimate danger, substantial risk, law enforcement officers as well, mostly included in all of this, use of deadly force, restrictions on the use of deadly force, exhibiting a firearm, training requirements of the use of force, writing reports, and blah, 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 and so on. Okay, so, however, I would spend hours and hours and hours sitting here reading every last one of those to you. Okay, so let's break it down real simple and real easy. Okay, so we can start with, let's start with law enforcement or any public safety individual. Okay, so technically we're still active peace officers, in our state. Okay, besides doing private sector, we're active peace officers. So just say when we're out working, and I get into a situation with somebody, or you get into a situation with someone. Okay, actually, as a peace officer, we can actually take one step above, okay? And that one step above is the use of non-lethal. So I don't have to fight an individual if I'm gonna arrest the individual. I can take one step above by using pepper spray.
Absolutely.
To end the threat, depending on the amount of threat that I receive from the individual that I'm going to arrest. Absolutely. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely.
Okay. Most police officers can take a step above when they, getting ready to arrest someone, and that person is, showing signs of violence towards the police officer, walking towards the police officer, not following that constructive authority that the police officer gave him, which is stop, put your hands up, get down on your knees, turn around. When the individual failed to follow that, they are resisting arrest without violence. Now, however, when the officer engaged that person and put hands on them to make that arrest, and that person starts to resist and starts to pull and starts to move, that is resisting arrest. If that person nudges and elbows, it's with violence. Am I right or wrong? Absolutely. So that officer can take one step above to arrest that person. Here in the United States, I've got into conversations where I spoke about some time ago with some South American, former military dudes, and the complaint about how, in their country, if a person don't want to be arrested, if they're going to walk to the precinct, they can walk to the precinct with them, but they're not going to put handcuffs on them. And I said, your country is different from here.
Here,
okay, and you can't criticize our country on how we train and use, the law for law enforcement to do their job. Okay, you got to understand is that, one, I'm not escorting nobody back to any precinct or any cell without being handcuffed. Do you agree? They got to be handcuffed.
They have to.
They have to be handcuffed.
Especially if you try to grab them and then they resist, that means that now I'm fearing for my life.
Exactly.
They might try to hurt me. So if I'm walking them to the precinct without handcuffs on, this guy is building up so much stuff inside that he might turn around and say, I'm not going in there. and he's gonna start fighting you, and he got his hands free. That's crazy.
Right.
Handcuff him, put him in, take him right to the police station.
Exactly, and you know, and it says in the use of force with certain amounts of force with non-lethal. When we teach these classes, because when we teach our classes, we get into debt with them.
Yeah.
And we spend like 3 or 4 hours teaching the use of force, and it's like, and it breaks down what law enforcement should use. The pepper spray. It says baton, and then it says canine and stuff like that. And we're kind of real careful about how we use our canine.
Absolutely.
Before we let our canine on someone.
What do you think about that security officer at the McDonald's with the 2 homeless guys?
Oh,
Okay, we're going to touch on that.
one.
We're definitely going to get to that one.
That's
Just hold on.
subjects.
Right, exactly. One of our subjects. And so now let's go into the use of force with civilians and individuals. Okay. Now, however, we're civilians. Me and you get into an argument. Okay. I'm 5'5". I'm a small guy, short guy. Not small, but short guy. Okay. You're a much taller guy. You're much heavier than me. Okay. We get into a fist fight, and you're knocking the shit out of me. Okay, I can take one step above in order to get your ass off of me.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, however, I can't pick up a bat and bust you in the fucking head and just say, "Oh, he's 6'1" and he's 250 pounds." Let me tell you something. I done knocked down a bunch of 6'1", 250-pound guys. You understand what I'm saying? So, but however, the use of force still takes play in there.
Yeah.
It still
absolutely.
takes play in there. I just can't pick up something and bust you in the head with it.
Well, you can't do that, but if you, like you said, I'm beating you to
Smithereens. Yeah.
Hey, listen, you got to do what you got to do.
Right, got to do what I got to do.
You
to
don't want
survive.
them to hurt you.
Right, exactly. But people don't understand is that I've seen a lot of people get charged with the lesser crime for protecting themselves. The reason why is because, for example, they bust a person in the head and the person went down. They continue to bust them in the head.
Yeah, well, right then and there, if I have a bat and you have a bat and I take the bat away from you, I can't bust you in your head. You know what I'm saying? That's the same as if I bust you in your head one time to get you away from me. You can't go over there and just keep beating the dude up.
Right.
Now you got attempted murder.
Right.
And that's the way they use the force of you taking it to the next level.
Right. And what's crazy though is that I was watching something on Facebook that somebody posted where the guy had a knife and the guy had a bat, and instead of I found wrong with it is that the guy with the bat should have just walked away from the situation.
He was out of harm's way.
Right, he was out of harm's way. But he decided to engage in the fight with the guy with the knife. The guy with the knife, you can tell by his demeanor, he really didn't want to engage with the guy. But the guy with the bat was hitting his leg, was tearing his leg up.
So who you thought that was the aggressor?
The guy with the bat.
Right?
The guy with the bat was the aggressor.
So you're saying the guy with the knife was defending himself?
Well, I wouldn't say defending himself, but he did not want to be in that fight because he kept trying to back away.
So you, just when the cops come, at that time, who would you arrest?
Well, that's hard to say. I have to know the story from the beginning to the middle and to the end. See, the video only shows the middle and it shows the end. So I really can't say.
Well, at the time that they showing you, the guy on the porch, he was far enough away for the guy with the bat don't engage no more.
Right. And particularly
he was the aggressor.
Right, and particularly
I think he was.
Right, yeah, but still particularly it may be a situation where both people can be arrested just as well.
Absolutely. But he's whacking him with the bat, and the guy he's still not lunging at you with the knife. He don't want to get hit with that bat.
You don't want to get hit with that bat.
That bat was cracking.
But however, I need to say is that when the gentleman made contact with the guy's head and cracked him and the guy went down, he stopped, he turned around, and he walked away. The guy with the knife got back up. I know he had a fucking headache out of this world, but he walked away. And I was saying to myself, I hope he don't continue to beat him in the head. But he didn't do that. Not saying that either one of them should not have been arrested for that situation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think he shouldn't have hit him in the head. You was doing enough damage hitting him in the leg.
Hitting him in the leg.
Now you went to attempted murder or murder. You
went or either felony assault.
Absolutely.
Or either felony assault.
That was pretty crazy.
Yeah. Felony assault. With the weapon. With the weapon.
With a deadly weapon.
Or either a bat is not considered a weapon. We would call it an instrument.
Yeah.
An instrument. But either way, you can take these instruments and you can use them as weapons. Either way. So, like I said, we don't know what the story was from the beginning. But however, like you said before, the guy with the bat did have the option to turn around and walk away.
Right. And if the guy, then at that time, if the guy would have came off the porch as you walking away, now you can use the force again, and you can go one step above, because now since I walked away,
you keep coming,
and you come in with a knife.
You keep coming.
Now I got to really get you away from me.
And out of that whole situation, guess what? Nobody's called the cops.
Nobody's called the cops.
And see, and that's what we're saying. People need to stop thinking, oh, well, you know what? Let me just go ahead and just beat this person's brains in. And when they do that, they get arrested. And they say, what am I getting arrested for? This person was bothering me first. What? Hold on. Did you involve law enforcement?
No, you didn't make the
because
call.
People have this pride that they can't involve law enforcement. So and that's something that we could probably touch on.
Why law enforcement are called peace officers? When they come there, they're supposed to keep the peace.
Exactly.
So that's where peace officers come at. So if somebody would have came and called the police, the guy who had the bat didn't have to hit the guy in the head with the bat.
Right.
And he might not have been knocked out.
Exactly.
I mean, because even with the blow, he still can kill him.
Right. So good. So now we want to touch on the whole McDonald's situation. So let me just say is that when you watch the film, it doesn't have, and I say it 1,000 times, and I say it 1,000 times, 1,000 times. It's hard to assess this fully 100% if I don't have a beginning of the film, of the video. If I don't
have a beginning.
Right. It's so hard to get a beginning. Very rare you get a beginning. But however, and usually that's premeditated when you have a beginning.
Yeah.
The person they say, film me while I do this. You know what I'm saying? But however,
we're gonna try to get it.
We don't have a beginning. So let's just assess what we saw with that video. Okay. One, let's talk about let's start with one individual fighting two people. Okay. People made comments about that the security officer was wrong. Okay. So let me just explain to you that it's hard for you who never done this job, who's never put a uniform on at all, who's never trained in any kind of law enforcement, correctional background, security, or anything, is that you need to stop making judgments.
Absolutely.
You need to stop making judgments. Okay, and the reason why I say that is because there is a law when it comes to security personnel. Now, security personnel is not they're non-commissioned officers. Okay, they're non-commissioned officers. All right. So when somebody hires security personnel to protect their property, they have a right to tell people to leave. They have a right to escort any individual out that they choose to, that is committing some type of a crime or violation on that property. Okay, even with civilians, if I'm home and I'm getting ready to go on vacation and you are my neighbor, I can tell you, Mr. Thompson, can you watch my home for me?
Yeah. And
Mr. Thompson, well, in New Jersey with the gun laws, you may have a little problem, but however, Mr. Thompson can watch my home for me. I know in the South, if I tell you to watch my home for me and there's a burglar and he's armed and you come with your gun, you can stop that.
You can stop that.
Right? Why is that? Because I commissioned you to protect my home while I was gone.
He deputized you to protect his.
That's right. That's right.
Not in New Jersey.
Not in New Jersey. New York, you can.
In New Jersey, you have to call the police. Saying somebody.
It would be without weapons, obviously.
Yeah,
in New York. But, however, so people saying, "Oh well, he grabbed him. The security guard grabbed him. The security officer grabbed him." We don't know that. Only thing we see is a struggle and a fight. Okay. Let me just say, is one, when you're by yourself, you must call and you must wait for your backup. Rather, if it's another. If it's an employee in your agency or your company that's coming, excuse me, and
my phone is just ringing.
and I'm sorry, where was I? Oh, so you have to wait for backup. if you don't have that type of manpower,
Yeah.
you have to call the police
Police.
and wait for the police to back you up.
But well, I don't agree with that. Once they engaged on telling them they had to leave, the two said no. It looked like the two said, I don't care. And they went after the individual.
Right,
Once
right,
they went
right.
after the individual, people inside the McDonald's was trying to help too. There was a couple of people. Yeah.
Got a comment. Raheem says, backup, cowboy tactics no longer works in this field.
He stopped us on that one. Okay. Well, what I'm saying is, and he's almost right, because the big thing with that, you still got to wait for the police to come there. You still got to wait for your backup to come there from the other company. It was a couple of people that was trying to help him. If I engage and I tell an individual to get out and he don't want to get out, he's going to raise up and say, what you going to do if I don't get out? Now what you going to do?
Right, and usually the problem is that sometimes that whole ego set in when a person
Absolutely.
tells you, well, you make me leave.
Yeah, you make me.
And now you're standing there and you like, I ain't gonna let them punk me, so I got to do something. So it's sometimes it's about making better decisions.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I usually say, what I usually say is that it really depends on one, your skill level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The tools and the tools that you have to assist you in your duties every day.
He was unarmed, right?
Okay. I'm not sure.
No,
I
he
can't
was an
really-
armed guard.
He was an armed
He
guard?
was an armed guard.
Okay. And also your company or agency's policy regarding backup. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's sometimes it's really, really hard to say. But I need to say this. Outside of all of that, the fact is that you can clearly see that this gentleman had a hard time dealing with these two.
Absolutely.
So training sets in. One of the things that I saw that I teach in my non-lethal weapons course with the baton is when a person grabs your baton on exactly what to do, and the young man didn't know exactly. He didn't know what to do.
Nothing.
He didn't know what to do at all. And that time he was just dealing with one individual. You know.
And we have
As a peace officer and a situation like that is in progress, would you involve yourself?
As a peace officer, yes, and I'm going to tell you why.
and a private citizen can involve themselves. Reason why is because 9 times out of 10, and I'm sorry to cut you off, 9 times out of 10, the security officer is in danger, especially when there's 1 or 2 of them. And if he pull out a weapon, you don't want that weapon to get in the wrong hands.
Exactly.
So when he was doing the baton, he was laying there with the baton, and the guy was engaged with that. He could have hurt the guy. He could have hurt the security officer.
Right. He could have took that weapon and used it
Absolutely.
against him.
I would have joined in.
In the video, somebody states that he loses his gun. What would you do in a situation like that?
What do you mean he loses his gun?
In the McDonald's tussle, the officer lost his gun.
He lost his gun.
Yes.
The gun was on the floor somewhere?
A civilian stated that his gun was not in his holster anymore. It was missing.
Okay, well, this is, I mean, you know, it's listen, it's really hard to say in a situation where you're fighting for your life or you're fighting. Sometimes you may not know that your gun is gone.
Absolutely.
That's the reason why I say all the time, and you can contest to this. What do we tell our recruits? I tell them all the time, a level 3 retention holster, a level 3 retention holster. I spent 26 years in this business, and I don't put on anything less. Okay, when I'm in uniform. When I'm in uniform, it's always a level 3 retention holster.
Never use a pancake holster.
Okay, never use a pancake holster. Never use a level 1 holster to do your duties. Never. I don't even use a level 2 when I'm in uniform. When I'm doing something out of uniform and I'm concealed, and then I will have a level 1 holster or something like that. But when I'm in duty and I'm in uniform, I always carry a level 3. I would not walk out my house without my firearm being in a level 3 holster. And see, once again, it's training. It's knowledge. You know what I'm saying? You have to be prepared to deal with the streets every day. You put a uniform on to go out there to do your job. Your safety is most important. So do you think that you're safe by putting your gun in a level 1 or level 2 retention holster. No, you need to have a level 3, and that's what I've been trying to preach for so long to a lot of guys. You know, I tell a lot of my guys that, one, if you do a detail for me, you can't work with that type of holster. Okay,
Absolutely.
Get a level 3 retention holster.
And most people is not trained how to move, stay away from your gun. People to stay away from your gun. I didn't know that his gun was out of his holster. That was the most dangerous thing in the world. Because now there's 2 guys there, one guy fighting him, the other guy could have picked up the gun and shot him.
You know,
and he could have died over what?
And then sometimes these guys, they end up losing the gun and the holster. We've seen it from somebody that we know personally, where the gun and the holster was connected together and is laying right there, and he's fighting, and it's like,
and there was a lot of people around.
Right, and your gun is here, and you over there fighting, and the gun and the holster's over there. What was the problem with that? You're not wearing a secure duty belt.
Secure duty
That's
belt.
the reason why this stuff was designed, people. That's the reason why it was designed. It was designed for officer safety. Not to look good, for officer safety. Okay? You hear a lot of people, oh, I don't want to carry all of that. And you know, you hear a lot of people say, oh, make yourself light as possible. Well, you know what? I hate to use profanity on this live, whatever, so on. Fuck out of here. Listen, honestly, I carry all my stuff. Okay? I'd rather have it and not need it, and then to need it and not have it.
That could have been real dangerous.
It could have been a real disaster. Okay, he fighting 2 guys. One, he had a hard time handling one. The one could have got up if his gun was on the floor, took the gun.
And he tried to mace the dude. He didn't even know how to mace the guys. You know what I'm saying? So that comes with training too. If I throw you out into the fire, you're gonna get burned. You know what I mean? I have to train you. That's why we train individuals. We hard on them. We make them get it before you walk out that door. We make you get it. I don't want to hear that somebody got shot and then or hurt, and it's one of our peoples that we train. We don't want that.
Right. We don't want that at all. We don't. And usually, what you can do as a trained person, it may not happen all the time, but usually when we teach in our OC course, is I tell them a lot of times, try to get the individual out of the establishment.
Absolutely.
Have some open. Have some open. Try to get it away from people. Try to get away from people. Like when we was officers in a jail, when I got off the streets and went into the jail, and when you was in the prisons, whatever, so on. The first thing when you're dealing with an inmate, you know what I'm saying. You don't want to start kicking ass and fight with an inmate, and there's 86 or another 100 inmates around. One might get a stomping, a punching, or stabbing on you. So what you do is you lock everybody down before you even engage in that situation. Contact fellow officers before the shit hits the fan. And then if you need to go in and kick ass and do takedowns, and then you go in. If you need to wait because you feel that threat may be real threatening to you, you wait till 4 or 5 or 6 other officers come. But guess what? When those 4 or 5 or 6 other officers come, all them other inmates are locked down and it's just one. So they start to look around like, I don't have any help. And that's when you take them down.
That's when you take them down.
You know.
And he makes it inside of McDonald's. And the whole thing is, he was by the door. And the 2 guys was on the other side, and he engaged back into them. Make them come to you. You back out of there. You get yourself out of there.
Get yourself out of there.
You get yourself out of there.
Exactly.
I mean, you got 2 individuals. You got to get yourself into a safer place.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's engaging, going forward to them. No, that's not the smart way to do. But we can't say what he was thinking because we wasn't there. We knew what to do. Some people don't.
Exactly. And we've been involved in these situations a lot.
Absolutely.
We've been involved in situations a lot. I was
a bouncer. I mean, it's a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, I actually used to work part-time as an armed guard for McDonald's 1 day a week.
Yeah, I did.
And it was really, really rough. And let me tell you something. Out of the whole, 2 years that, I did this detail for 2 years, is that I've been involved in a lot of situations because of the area that it was in.
Yeah,
it was
in a bad area.
You just couldn't avoid it. And every day I would say, what kind of crap am I going to get myself into today? But let me tell you something. It came time where I had to pepper spray somebody. Yeah. It came time where I had to use my baton. And it also came time where I actually had to remove my firearm from its holster. You know? And it's like, and you think about it, McDonald's, Ronald McDonald? Really? a place, establishment like that, we're supposed to be happy in hamburgers?
No.
Oh, no. No, not at all. Not at all.
We had crowds in there.
Right.
Crowds. They come at nighttime. And you
From
out
the
there
club, everybody's wild, everybody's drunk, intoxicated, and everybody ready to fight.
and fight each other. Now
Yeah,
you got to
fight each other.
engage with them.
Right.
And you're the only one there.
Exactly. So to the young man, if you're hurt, hope you have a speedy recovery.
Absolutely.
NJ Shield's suggestions to you is, go back to training. Pick up some more training. And
that's not an insult.
And that's not right. And that's not an insult. That's what I was going to touch on. I'm glad that you said that. It's not an insult, but everybody needs touching up. Everybody needs touching up. We're going to be out there. Everybody needs touching up. So, like I said, if you're hurt, hope you have speedy recovery. And it should be a learning situation for all of us. Okay.
Absolutely.
Y'all guys who's viewing live, just type in. Let me know your comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Okay. While we move on to the next. Okay. So you told me earlier, today that you actually wanted to touch on something and it needed to be put on the list, and that was the First Amendment rights. I know we talk about Second Amendment rights all the time, but now we're talking about First Amendment rights. So I'll let you start off with, because it was your idea to bring that up here.
Well, the First Amendment rights is that you start seeing that people saying engaging with filming. This is the big thing now. Everybody got cameras. Their phones is a camera. And they starting to film the police officers. They starting to film places that they want to film. And people, the first thing people say is, "Oh, you can't film me." Yes, they could. I mean, they can't go on private property and film. But if they're across the street and filming you, they can do that. A police officer can't say, "I can't film them." If you're doing your job as a police officer, you don't worry about that film. I saw another one where they was at a federal facility and the guy was filming across the street, and the police officer said, "You can't film because it's federal
property."
Yeah, federal property. I'm not on your property and I can film it. What do you have to hide? Cameras is everywhere, so you getting filmed no matter if you think you're not.
Technically, yeah.
I mean, if you don't see a guy filming you, Big Brother filming you from the cameras on the security building and everything like that. Mm-hmm. If you're doing, like I said, if you're doing the right thing, you don't have to worry about the film.
I know usually sometimes when it comes to federal property, the reason why they say they don't want no type of video of their facility because of potential threat or dangers of security breaches or whatever, so on. So what they call it, reckless video, just for no reason, at all. Sometimes they may touch on that. And you made a good point there. To be honest with you, this is something that I'm really, really, really not too sure about when it comes to federal property and just. I
mean,
video,
I don't think there's a law on that, so we're gonna look that up too.
Yeah, we need to look that up. We need to look. But however, when you talk about filming the police, they can be filmed doing their job, long as you film it in a safe distance away from the investigation, where it's not endangering them or anybody else's life. From a safe distance, you can watch law enforcement. As a taxpayer, you can watch law enforcement, any law enforcement officer or peace officer do their job. You have a right to. And before people had cameras and camera phones and whatever, so on, people used to actually watch the police do their job from a distance.
Absolutely.
And you hear the police officer say, "Step back," and tell people to leave. But actually, people really don't have to leave as long as it's in a safe distance.
Yeah, and you're not interfering with
and you're not interfering with the investigation. So you can watch law enforcement do their job. That's what taxpayers, pay. So you have a right to, to view that. I just say to my fellow law enforcement is that, let's just be careful with everything that we do out there.
Everything.
You know what I'm saying?
Everybody. And like he said, you don't get the first beginning of the film. You only get the bad film. The bad part of if he didn't. They don't show that he punched me in the face, so I had to go to another level, and I got the best of him. They don't show that.
Right, they never show that. They never show that. And to be honest with you, I tell a lot of people, listen, these phones right here, I can video you and somebody else right now, and I go to my phone and I can cut that part out and edit it, and then I can, have the final results and send it in. But what happened to the rest of the shit? You understand what I'm saying?
Negative cells.
Exactly. So tell us what you're thinking when it comes to that. So want to move on to to the next with who's hiring. So federal agencies are hiring. We believe U.S. Secret Service Uniform Division is hiring. A bunch of other federal agencies are hiring. So go to what's that website? Jobs.gov.
Yeah,
USAjobs.gov. Go there. You can go to these individual sites and find out these law enforcement jobs that are hiring. Okay.
Security companies
are hiring. U.S. Security Associates.
Motivated
is hiring. Gateway is hiring. Who else is hiring? There's a few others that I may have.
Cambridge is hiring in New Jersey.
Right. So if
they got a lot of sites there.
Right. So if you're looking for any kind of work with any of these companies or within a profession and you need training, once again, give NJ Shields a call. Our numbers are posted. Give us a call and we can help you reach those goals. If you need those goals, we can actually help you get there. So reach out to us. We're willing to help, and we're willing to actually also do job placement if we have to reach out and do job placement. We have I say 99.99 success rate out of student graduates and job placement, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So now we're gonna eventually end this session in a few minutes. So I just want to give a shout out again to Officer Raheem Soto, personal friend.
Captain,
thank you for viewing, and the captain that typed in. Thank you, Captain, for viewing us and watching us. I want to give a shout out to Timothy Haycraft. I hope I'm saying your last name right, but he's a retired law enforcement officer, and he's our Facebook friend, and he has surgery. So let's just hope that you have a speedy recovery.
Absolutely.
And you enjoy the rest of your retirement, brother, and you also stay safe, okay? And we want to give a shout out to all of our students who train with NJ Shields.
Brett.
Okay.
Brett, one of the guys.
Brett and Chris and and one of our counterparts who sent behind the camera, our marketing and director Manny. Give a shout out to him. And who else?
To everybody.
To everybody
who listened to us, and we're gonna come live more and more, and we're gonna have the news and comments that we need y'all to call in with us. Text in, tell us what's on your mind. Have questions for us. If we can't answer it today, we'll answer it the next time we come on.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Anything that you want to know, if we don't know, we're gonna find out for you. Some of the subjects that we did today, we're gonna look further into it, and then we
and we're gonna
talk on it.
Right, we're gonna touch back on it and hopefully have some answers and have better investigation when it comes to it. So we won't make those assumptions.
Everybody else do too.
Yeah. So, okay. So our shout outs went out, whatever, so on. So thank you, Facebook friends, for viewing in live with us. This is Chief Instructor Doug Worthen, Chief Instructor Robert Thompson, the NJ Shields. Thank you for viewing in. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow at 10. Peace.